The live stream is preparing itself. Ooh, very good. And I'm the only person watching it.
Oh well. Maybe later, Steve. Maybe it's an investment.
Yeah. 2 people watching it now. That'll be me and Rob Guest.
Hello, Rob and Gillian.
One watching it now, so 2 watching it.
Oh dear. I better make sure my phone is on silent.
Like this.
Oh, that mine.
Eh?
I love it going. Yeah, we're live on the YouTube now.
Aha.
So we're going to stay on this YouTube and Zoom session straight through into the discussion.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's 11 o'clock and we got 5 people in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Should we wait one more minute?
No, I'd wait a couple more minutes.
Couple more minutes.
Yeah. I just explain to everybody that you can't actually see yourselves on the screen at the moment. You are all attendees, and as attendees, you won't see yourself on the screen. We'll bring you into the room later when we get to the more discussion part, but we'll keep it very simple now. And you'll see Terry and Atsu on the screen for the first part of the session, and then when we get to the questions bit. But one thing you can do is, if you're on a PC, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see there's a Q&A button, and you can put questions into that Q&A button, and then Andy can read that. And there's a question already there, Andy. Can you see it?
Oh, okay.
I saw it. I saw it.
And I think you could type an answer to that one, Andy.
Yes, I'm going to type it on.
So the Q&A is a good place, and also you can chat. And the answer to that was no at the moment. So that is a no. We have a definitive. We have 9 people in the room now. So that's
good.
Good.
Why is Andy the only one wearing a Taborers badge? Well, that's an interesting question.
Oh, well, I've got my invisible one on.
Okay.
I was wearing mine last night, actually. It's still on my my.
Oh, Terry's wearing his.
I may have to go and get mine.
And Atsu has it engraved on his heart, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh dear.
Jolly good. So now we've got 11 attendees and 5 on YouTube. So we're
well, quite a lot.
We are getting there. Yeah. I'll close the door here. Attendees. Very good. So there's Mamoru Sakaino. What time did they get up?
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh,
That's really
good.
That's very, very good.
So you can use the chat facility, the chat button to chat to everybody. And Denise is there, and Clive's there. We were waiting for you, Clive. And the answer to your question, Clive, is no, you're not supposed to be visible. At the moment, for the first part, we will just be having the presenters visible. and we will bring in everybody when it comes to the Q&A, to the discussion. So, right. So we've got 12 people there. 11:04. Do you reckon it's time to get started?
Yay! Okay. Right. So I think.
And say hi to people on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's all say hi to people on YouTube. Hello, YouTube.
Hello.
And if you're on YouTube, there is a chat facility, and you take part in the discussion and put your questions in the chat. And you can talk to each other on, it says live chat on the right hand side of the screen, or talk chat. And please, on YouTube, yes, say hi, let us know who's watching and taking part, and we can all be part of the same event. Okay. Right, okay. Over to you, Andy.
Right, so I think a warm welcome to all of you. It's really lovely that you're here to witness this tremendous event, because we've got two of the most kind of wonderful sort of institutions of the taboring world. We've got Terry Carter and we've got Atsufumi Ujiie, and they are both completely awesome. And it's so wonderful that we have this chat to sort of see them ask each other questions. So it's going to be 15 minutes one way and then 15 minutes the other way, roughly. And then at the end, we have about 15 or so minutes for everybody to ask questions, generally, including about Terry's book. So books. So anyway, so over to Terry, who's going to ask some questions. Ask some questions of Atsu. Here we go.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Konnichiwa, Atsu. I have given Atsu advance warning of what I might ask him, because my Japanese is not very good. All right. So, good morning. Atsu, where did you learn your music?
Well, which you mean in the college or generally?
When you were an infant at school.
Right. So at the school, I learned at first. I learned in Tokyo, at the college in Tokyo. I learned percussion as a major instrument, but I was quite interested in recorder, baroque recorder. So I chose recorder as a second instrument. So I learned both, but mainly percussion in Tokyo. And then I moved in Milan because I was still interested in recorder, and in Milan there is a good school. So I learned in Milan mainly recorder there for 4 years.
3 years, good, really. So, when did you start playing the pipe and tabor then?
Well, it is a good question. Well, in the college in Tokyo, about already 12 years ago, maybe, the teacher of the recorder of the college showed me tabor pipe, because he thought maybe I can play quite well, because I was learning percussion as a major instrument, and I used to play recorder. So he gave me to try it, but there was no information more, and we didn't know how to practice and how to what music we can play. And so the teacher of the recorder called Mr. Furuyama gave me a tabor pipe, D pipe, and low D pipe. It is from Mr. Furuyama, my teacher of the recorder. And just one book which he know by Dick Bagwell. Yeah. So it was my first material. Low D pipe and high D pipe by Sweetheart, and a book by Dick Bagwell. So I learned so weird.
What makes of pipe have you got now? What sorts of pipe
Right.
makers?
Now I have several makers. For example, this is G pipe by Team Gramo, and the others. I have quite a lot by Murray Hawson.
Right?
Murray.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Murray Hawson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
D minor and D major, and it is Alfonso C minor, and it is a model of Zamora, very particular scale.
Is it C minor? Right,
Yes,
is that?
yes, it is C minor medieval model. It is C minor.
All right.
Yes. I'm going to play in this evening at the concert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does that work then? I mean, can you just play a scale on it? Tell us what notes you're playing.
Yeah. Would you like to hear it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, you will see at the concert in this evening.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. And it is by Terima, and it is
Yeah.
Italian maker by Giovanni Brugnani.
Uh-huh. Oh,
Yeah. So quite several makers I have.
Brilliant. What about your Tabors? What have you got in that line? I know you've got a little one.
Yeah. Yes. As I'm always traveling, I chose a very small one. It is 8-inch by Mr. Cabrera in Catalonia. So it's small. I chose it because in the hand baggage in the airplane, it is allowed to bring with me.
Uh-huh.
So I chose small one. So for now, I have just this with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Right. I noticed when you were playing Le Basque.
Yeah, very favorite.
When you play the top F sharp, you use two fingers and a thumb. I've never seen that before.
Right. Maybe for attendees, we have to explain about the Le Basque arrangement by you. So Tericata arranged a very fabulous arrangement by of the Le Basque by Marin Mares.
Yeah.
So I tried his arrangement to play, and it is available on YouTube. Maybe you all can check it.
Yeah.
So maybe your question is first note F sharp, you mean? It's not, no. Which note? Is it?
Yeah.
It is depends. I know that.
Atsu, are you on original sound? Because it's the sound's not quite working.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done. I know that it can be closed, but I choose depends on passage. For example, something like that. If I do, it is okay, but it is easy. Just the thumb. So I choose on the passage.
Yeah. Depends where you are, yeah. Any tips for practicing the pipe? Have you got
Right.
suggestions to how we could improve our playing?
Well, recently I found that to record is very helpful. For example, when I tried to play your Le Basque, I tried to record with a mobile phone like that.
Yeah.
And I found many problems of movement. Because when I play, I can watch. I found that I didn't watch very much my fingers. But when I record, I found that I found many problems of my movement. And yeah, generally, yeah, I like to practice quite a mechanical way. Your Le Basque is quite a fast passage, so I found quite I found the difficulty.
Yeah.
Not very easy. So what I tried is also the other pieces, but I always try from half velocity, half speed.
Yeah.
I set a metronome.
Yeah.
And I play a passage very difficult, and if it went well, I set to 1 BPM more and 1 BPM more. So, so generally I try quite a mechanical way to practice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you play by ear?
Yes. So, I don't know. It depends on the tune, but basically yes.
Yeah. I think it's a very good thing to be able to do. Right. I notice you're a principal timpanist in the opera in Bulgaria.
Yes.
Why?
Good question. Yeah, my my interest is pipe and tabor, but pipe and tabor. Where can I play regularly? So I love.
It requires two hands.
Yes.
Not just one. That's more difficult, isn't it?
Well, both are difficult because timpan is the same movement, but pipe and tabor not the same movement. Movement of finger and movement of drum.
Yeah.
It is difficult as well. So each instrument has their own difficulty. So for me, both are difficult.
Have you got any do you play operas and ballet?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you got any favourite ones?
Well, in here I've not played very much in ballet, but now we are playing Sleeping Beauty. Of Tchaikovsky by Tchaikovsky.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And the other time, not here, but I played Offenbach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
also,
one?
What is called?
Tales of Hoffman? Orpheus? Orpheus in the Underworld. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah.
Are you playing much at the moment with this COVID thing?
Right. We've got winter vacation till 25th, but from last week we started to play as a rehearsal, and in the moment we are going to play regularly also February, but nobody knows us this situation.
Yeah.
And end of the year of last year, we've got a baroque repertoire with pipe and tabor in the theater. Quite fun. Also, in this theater, our theater, usually we didn't play baroque repertoire, but now we are trying to play more all the repertoire. So hopefully it will continue.
Right. Now this Pipe and Tabor Society in Japan. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm joining the Tabor Society, our Tabor Society here for 10 years, and I joined. Now I'm talking about England. I joined the procession in England, in Gloucester, in York Mystery Place, and I've got many marvelous experience. From 2011 to 15th, I never went back to Japan. So for years I never went to Japan. Never gone to Japan. And when I went back to Japan to 2015, I found that in England, I see England for now, there is an opportunity to play all together, the procession and the mystery plays. It is fantastic. Okay, also we have early music opportunity to play concert, but just one tabor and any other instrument. In Japan, there is no opportunity to play all together. So I was wishing to have an opportunity to gather together and play together. So 5 years ago, I asked a quite well-known one of the best bagpiper in Japan, called Mr. Kondo, and one of the best recorder player called Migiwa. I talked with them because also they are interested in pipe and tabor, and they are playing as well. To have a society and to have opportunity to meet all together, and we created and we began to have a monthly workshop for 5 years, and maybe since about 3 years ago we started to join a procession in Tokyo, garbage cat procession. It is quite a particular procession. We all make as a cat, garbage cat, and with cat ear, and we play pipe and tabor. Yeah, it sounds quite strange, but and since already 4 years ago, we are joining this parade, and we got quite a large number of members, 40 people altogether to process.
That's good.
Quite fantastic. And recently we have 150 members, and
How many? 50, did you say? 50?
150. Yeah,
brilliant.
quite a lot. Yeah. And 400 people is following our Facebook page. So now, in this situation, now we are trying to have a monthly workshop in online because of the COVID. But hopefully, it will go well.
That's good. Yeah, I notice your hobbies, you say, are magic and ventriloquism.
I'm a member of the Fusa Ventriloquism Club. I joined this club because I was interested in it because of him. I'm always trying. When I introduced this instrument, often I'm with him, and I'm always thinking if he can talk with me, it is fantastic. Like hello. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. Like that. So just as a hobby, I'm joining maybe twice. I was joining when I lived in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I think the squirrels are amazing, and I think maybe now it's time to reverse the flow of questions.
Right. Okay. That's it. So, shall I ask interview?
Oh yes, please.
All
yeah.
right. Okay. So, I guess your career is quite a bit longer than my career. So
Yeah.
I found many interesting. I wanted to ask many things, but as limited time, I would like to ask just a few things, just three things. First thing is, as orchestra musician, I was interested in your career of the when you were orchestra musician.
Yeah.
I know that you are working as an orchestra musician. What instrument is which instrument? Because you studied in Royal Academy
Yeah.
for conducting and horn and cello, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. With which instrument were you working with orchestra as an orchestra musician?
Well, when I left the Royal Academy, I went up, was playing the cello. I got the first job was with the cello with the London Philharmonic Orchestra,
right?
a live broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And funny thing, I had always been taught to play, when a conductor does that, you play when he reaches the bottom of his beat, yes?
Yeah.
But the London Philharmonic Orchestra didn't do that.
Oh, really?
They went, ba,
Ah, right. Yeah.
ba. So it was quite an ordeal to play in that orchestra. Actually, I didn't play. My bow was about half an inch above the string, you know.
Right.
From there, was offered a job with the Festival Ballet Orchestra.
Yeah.
Playing the cello, and that we went on a tour of England for about 10 weeks or something. And I was very grateful for that tour because I learnt to play snooker. Because in the daytime, you're not doing anything.
Ah, right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But most Burton's tailors in the cities that we went to had a snooker hall at the top, so I spent a lot of time in snooker halls. But it taught me that the ballet, it taught me to love ballet and have a great respect for the dancers, because they work from dawn until night, always in the theatre practicing and that, and it was a wonderful experience. Yeah. And then I went to, I got a job in the BBC orchestra, BBC orchestra for a couple of years on the cello. And then that contract came to an end, so I was offered a job in Northern Ireland as a brass teacher.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So I went across to Northern Ireland, and I only played the French horn. Yeah. But I was sent to a brass band school. Yeah. And they played brass band instruments, from little tiny cornets to great big basses, and they all played in treble clef. Even the bass instruments played in treble clef. So it was a huge learning experience for me. After that, I came back to Staffordshire as a cello teacher, and I was there for lots of years.
Yeah, very a lot of experience you have. Your life is with very very varied, very interesting.
Yeah. But I was a sort of a jack of all trades, we say in this country, and a master of none, really. But that was very helpful, because in my job in Staffordshire, I was asked to take the recorder group.
Yeah.
And we had all recorders from ones that big to ones 8 foot high.
Right.
But when I was offered to take it, because my boss had seen me playing the pipe, he said, "Oh, you can do that." I said, "No, there's too many holes on recorders. I can only cope with 3.
That's right. Yeah.
Too many holes." Oh, he said, "You'll be all right." So I said, "Okay, I'll do it if I can have some old instruments like crumb horns and bagpipes."
Yes.
Yeah, so we did. They bought us that, and we got a grant of about £28,000 to buy some.
Right. Yeah. It is good. You're very lucky.
Yeah, and we started putting on costumes and dancing, dances, and performed at old buildings.
So is it with the Staffordshire Youth Record Ensemble?
Sorry?
Is it with the Staffordshire Youth Record Ensemble?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how about the Staffordshire Youth Record Ensemble? Is it student ensemble for young musicians?
Yeah. Anybody about 10 to 18.
Right.
Age 10 to 18.
Right.
Who learnt their recorders in school,
Yeah.
and they auditioned to belong to the
Yes.
the county one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you are conducting them. You are teaching recorder with them.
Yeah, teaching, but it
Yeah.
came very useful. All this jack of all trades, master of none. When I had to cope with cornets, you know.
So yeah.
Vials,
Yeah. You are very lucky.
rebecs,
Yes.
and things hurdy-gurdy. So yeah, and we were, after about a year or so, we were invited to Japan.
Yes, it is
Yeah.
very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw your photo, your pictures also maybe on Facebook. So I already know it, and I was already interested in it.
Yeah.
So how about your tour in Japan? Was it in Hamamatsu?
Sorry? Hamama
In which city did you go?
Shizuoka,
Shizuoka. Yes, it is Hamamatsu, I think.
and then Hamamatsu. But there was a story about that, right?
Yeah. So
2 weeks before we were due to leave, the Japanese person who was organising it came up, came across to England and measured all our instruments and costumes and took the measurements of everything,
right.
so they could build a box to put in the plane. Yeah. So a week before we were due to go, they came with this box. We had to put all our instruments and costumes in, and goodbye, and we wouldn't see them again.
Really?
So a week later, we went, caught the plane to Tokyo, and we were shown on the bullet train to Shizuoka.
Yeah.
And we were told when we arrived in Shizuoka, "Oh, I'm sorry, but your instruments haven't come with you. They weren't put on the plane because it was too full of people and luggage. But they'll be here in 2 days' time." And we got a concert the next day.
Right.
All right.
Wow. Amazing.
Fortunately, some of the members had plastic recorders in their suitcases. Yeah, because they were going to play outside.
Yeah.
And they said it'd be too hot to wear our costumes, and we used these plastic recorders to play in a parade through Shizuoka.
I see. I think it is very big parade. I think it is very famous parade in Shizuoka.
Yeah. Anyway, we got a concert to do, right? And very few instruments. I hadn't got my pipe and tabor in my suitcase, so I was all right. And I told the children to put any spare music in their suitcase. Why, Mr. Carter? What have we got to do that for? So I said, because I say so. So, and we arrived then. Oh yes, Yamaha gave us a whole load of plastic recorders to play.
Yeah.
A Chinese youth orchestra that was there lent us a cello and a violin. Percussion was a problem. So they took us to a primary school in Shizuoka. Yeah. And we took off our shoes when we went in. That's just the rule.
Yeah.
And we were shown their percussion.
Yeah.
And we picked up drums and things. The only trouble was these drums were marching band drums. Yeah.
Yeah, quite similar.
So anyway, we did it.
Wow.
And we did a concert.
Very exciting journey. Yeah.
I think maybe it's last question, and then we'll throw it
Right.
out.
Okay.
Right.
Yes. Last question is definitely it is. What were you doing? Now I'm 32 years old. I guess you are a little bit older than me.
Yeah.
My question is, what were you doing when you were my age, and give me any advice for my life?
What was I doing when I was 32 years old?
Yes.
I was a father, just teaching and working and that. I didn't even know what a pipe and tabor was until I was age 50. And didn't start Morris dancing until I was 50 years old.
Yeah.
So strange. So I'm 78 now, and I had my jab, and I still love it. I missed Morris dancing. I've been very grateful for it because I've never been in so many pubs in my life as I have since I started Morris dancing. I was a teetotaler before that.
So
I think it's time to open it up to everyone else. So Steve, you have to press some knobs. What has to happen now?
I'm just everybody will realise that they've been invisible for the moment, and what I'm doing is I'm just bringing you all into the room. And I think if you want to, we've had one question from Jez already, so you can maybe, I think that one was for Atsu, possibly you'll have to hold your hand up to the camera if you want to ask a question, and then Andy can check. I'm just bringing everybody in. It's helpful if you have your camera on, and also some have got rather obscure name tags like 521948. If you click on the top right hand corner of your little window, you can actually rename yourself.
So Steve, is the idea that people actually unmute themselves and ask questions?
Yeah. So when they want to ask a question, put your hand up to the thing, and then that way we can see who it is that wants to ask, and then you can and then Andy, you can then go to them, ask them to unmute.
Brilliant. Okay, so I think the first question is from Jez then.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Yeah. Well, as I've got the first question, I might ask a different one because there was a technical one I wanted to raise, but maybe I could say to Atsu, a slightly different one. So, is there anything like pipe and tabor in traditional Japanese music?
Yes, you will see in this evening.
Okay.
I'm going to play a traditional tune in this evening at the pipe and tabor concert.
Oh, fantastic. Well, as that was a quick answer, can I slip in a technical one? So, do you ever use double tonguing when you play fast music?
Yes. I use it. It is double.
Right. Thank you.
Right. Who has the next question?
Everybody.
Do we have another question? Oh yeah, okay, we've got one from Bill.
Slightly facetiously, a question for Terry. Why do you think it is that recorders have so many holes?
Well, they're obvious, isn't it? More holes than a pipe.
But why? They don't really have any more notes. It just makes some notes easier to play. What I'm interested in is, at a certain point around 1500, I would guess, the recorder takes over. And I've never quite understood why. Because all of the music from that period can perfectly well be played on a 3-hole pipe. Of course, later it becomes much more difficult. But it's very interesting that, because technically it's very much harder to make a recorder because you've got to get all those notes and all those holes in tune. So has it ever been? Have the recorder community ever wondered why it is that they just have so many holes when 3 is perfectly adequate? No? All right.
I think, isn't it something to do with like they could play an E flat minor on the same instrument without having to change
Well, that's a
to an E flat pipe, or it's a bit like French horns.
It's plausible, Terry, but of course with 3-hole pipes you just change pipe. If you want to play in a different key, you pick up a pipe in a different key, and that does it. That's what we do.
Yeah.
As Atsu was saying, he has about a dozen of them at least, in every conceivable key at every conceivable mode. So do you think that was the reason? No? Okay.
Aha! MJ has a question. MJ is unmuting.
Yeah, I've unmuted myself. Yeah, it's not so much a question. It's more that, yes, you can carry around a bag full of dozen pipes, but it's easier if you've only got one instrument in your hand and you don't have to change. And sometimes you get tunes that modulate from one key to another, although that's not usually a problem because you usually have enough accidentals on a 3-hole pipe. But it does mean that you don't have the... Later on in time, I think the recorder taking over was probably quite a gradual thing in some respects. But I always have a problem with G sharp on a D pipe. It's all right if you're going down from A, but if you're trying to go up, I drop the pipe on the floor sometimes. So yeah, there are some. I don't understand why it took over quite so comprehensively, but the recorders I play only have one or two extra holes. They don't have the split holes at the bottom, which I find frankly very annoying if you want to do any slide type ornaments. So I mostly play wide bore recorders which don't have split holes. Anyway, that's enough from me. Over to people who want to ask serious questions.
So I saw that Clive wanted to ask a question, but his video wasn't working, and he's disappeared.
Ah, okay.
Anyway, who else someone put their hand up just now? Was that Jez?
Ah, yes, Jez. Over.
Just a really quick comment. I mean, I absolutely love playing pipe and tabor, and I love belting out tunes for Morris in the open air. But you could never call the pipe and tabor a polite instrument, could you? It's a very different feel to recorder, isn't it?
Well,
I think Bill wants to come back.
I would totally disagree about politeness. Some of the images I have show the pipe and tabor in very polite company. So I will I may demonstrate later. But no, of course, it depends on partly on the size. Little pipes can be a little bit straining played indoors, but that's a minor issue. That's my view.
Terry, did you want to say something?
I was just trying to say what Bill said, really, that the lower pipes are not so, horrible. I find my low D very pleasant. Play indoors and, yes. With the high D, God.
Oh, now Gillian's
But it's all right outside, the high D, of course.
Gillian wants
I have a sweetheart high D that is very gentle for indoors, and I think there's a quiet one from what's his name, Freeman, and also there's a quieter carbony D pipe. So they can play very sweetly indoors. Yeah. Also,
Gillian, did you want to say something?
you have to unmute.
Yeah, unmute. You need to unmute, Gillian.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
A question for Atsu. Atsu, we've heard the Japanese Pipe and Tabor Society playing Hunt the Squirrel and lots of Playford things. Do they play Japanese music as well?
Well, good question. We are just now we are planning a workshop for Japanese traditional dance, and now we are planning on February. Always now online workshop. We are going to practice Torambushi. Torambushi is from Hokkaido. It is not part of Japan. Something like that.
Right.
The interesting thing is drum is drum. Japanese drum is Japanese drum. Not same. Very interesting difference is tonguing. Now I told you to get about double tonguing, but traditionally I'm not very keen about Japanese music, but basically much less tonguing for Japanese traditional music.
Right.
I guess also any other some European traditional music. Yeah, they don't use very much tonguing. Also in Japan, traditionally some instrument doesn't have tonguing. So now I'm planning to practice considering thinking about tonguing, Japanese traditional tonguing and Japanese traditional rhythm in this tune. So it is our next task.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question on that? Have you tried to play much of the shakuhachi tradition on Tabor pipe?
Well, I've never done, but I remember that you asked me 10 years ago about that, something like that. Yes, I know. It is, for example, for contemporary music in recorder, some composer is trying to use the traditional technique of shakuhachi technique, like koro koro. Koro koro mean going ball is rolling. It is koro koro. Sounds koro koro, something like onomatope, or like something like finger vibrato. So in the recorders contemporary music, they are already trying for 50 years for contemporary music, and yes, I'm wondering to try also to bring this technique for Tabor pipe to play Japanese traditional music. It would be fantastic.
Wow, that sounds brilliant. Bill has a question.
Yes, Atsu, I was listening to a koto
Yes.
last night actually, and I thought that's a very interesting sound, which would go possibly quite well with a Tabor pipe.
Yes.
It's very sort of complete contrast in sound. Has anybody done anything with that? I imagine the recorders have, but you have the additional possibility of adding percussion as well as the koto and
Well,
the pipe.
personally, I have no idea with chord or with Parker, but I'm sure that someone should be done already with percussion. I don't think with pipe and tabor, maybe nobody done it. And yes, we tried a record a Japanese tune with trio danga for this evening. With harp, you know me, baroque harpist me and violinist. And yes, it has a particular scale, but like do, mi, so, la, si, re, mi, like that. It's a 6-note scale.
You probably need a special pipe that plays in the same scale. It could be a little bit tricky.
No, it's not tricky. So, no, I think it's good to imitate with harp and pipe, something harp imitating from koto and pipe imitating shakuhachi or Japanese flute. We are trying to copy something like the taste.
And a similar question.
I just see Clive has just returned. He can't get his camera to work, but he'd like to ask a question.
Yes.
So perhaps if Clive can unmute.
Done that. I am unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Can you repeat the last 3 questions, please? Right. Atsu.
Yes.
We have Terry's splendid books. When is your first P&T album coming out?
Sorry, I don't understand. Sorry.
When are you going to launch your first Pipe and Tabor music album?
CD.
Or
So a tune on Terry's book, you mean?
A whole album of tunes.
Yeah, but it gets scratched when I put it on the record player.
Good idea, I think.
Seriously, it would be really nice to have a comprehensive album of superbly played tunes that we can all then learn from.
Yeah. Good idea.
Over to you.
Yeah, I'm happy with this idea. Yeah. Good.
Right, I think we possibly got time for just one last question, haven't we, Steve? Is that right? Yeah. So who wants to ask the last question?
Can I ask it then?
Yes.
Of course, nobody else put their hand up. A question for both of you really is what you think is the best thing we can do to promote the pipe and tabor. The pipe and tabor has been a poor relation in musical society, in the institutions. It's just not paid attention at all in England and many other countries. whereas in France they have their galopé down at the Conservatoire in Aix-en-Provence and things. But here we just don't have that appreciation. So what can we do to promote the pipe and tabor now?
It is a very good and different question. I'm always wondering what to do. And yes, for now, yes, the situation in England and Japan is quite different. But now I'm trying to do is to go to school, elementary school, because in Japan, also, I guess also in England, everyone who play recorder because of Yamaha. Yeah, everyone and every students knows recorder. I think also in England too. So I think it is good to at least to show the Tabor pipe. It is something like recorder but 100. It could be interesting for children. But for now in Japan, situation is nobody knows. I guess it's something like England, but in Japan for children, completely nobody knows. I guess. So now I'm thinking, and I was planning is go to school to show, but now it is stopped because of this situation. But yeah, after this situation, I'm wondering to do it.
Okay, can we, I've just muted Terry because he's got some interference on his thing, but perhaps you can unmute again now and give us your thoughts.
Well, it's very difficult at the moment. I mean, it's in spite of the COVID thing, forget that for the moment, that music teaching in schools has gone right down. You know, instrumental music teaching. That's a sad state of affairs. So I was very lucky that I learnt in Leicestershire under a free system, and I taught in Staffordshire under a free system, and you know we were able to give concerts in schools and had children learning the pipe and tabor in my ensemble and broadening their outlook on music and life and it. Yeah, but that's all gone to pot. So I don't know what we can do is just encourage people to learn it. I don't know. Who knows?
Okay.
Okay. I think we probably have to stop at this point, don't we, Steve, for our schedule? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, can we just really give everyone who's contributed a big round of applause, and especially Terry and Atsu. Hooray! And obviously, yeah, we're all part of the effort to try and make pipe and tabor more visible. Okay, Steve, what's the plan for the next few minutes?
So let's have a 10-minute break, and we'll come back. And primarily, I think we've got Terry and Bill I've got a little presentation to give to begin with, but we'll come back in the. But so I'm just going to leave the system open, and you can so you can all have a chat. Terry,
yeah.
I wonder if you could switch over to your other microphone at the moment. Your current microphone is giving us some interference. Or perhaps mute yourself at the moment.
Just hold on a minute.
Okay, so it's a 10-minute break then, but people can have a little natter. Is that it?
Yeah, that's right. So we'll go to gallery view, and
Okay.
everybody can have a chat. And the people over on YouTube. There's 8 on YouTube at the moment. They're starting to have a conversation on the chat on the side there. And Liam Robinson says he enjoyed the questions, strongly agree with Terry. Bring back music to primary schools. Right on, Liam.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay.
So, we'll just leave it open. You can all chat, yeah, and I'll go and recharge my coffee cup, and we will be ready to go at say 10 past. Okay.
See you then.
I had a thought. One thing to do for Pipe and Tabor promotion is to just promote outdoor festival music. We're losing outdoor, especially here in the States. We used to have bands that would play and little festivals and a concert in the park. So if you make celebrations in little localities where people come out and hear Pipe and Tabor, march down the street. We don't march down the street for any reason anymore. I think we need to bring that back. Community celebration and the sound of, you go to the thing, the picnic, and you're hearing the music.
Yes, it is difficult also in Japan because always we have to ask a permission, especially in Tokyo. Yes. And and residence situation is quite busy. Also there are a lot of building and very busy apartments, so not very good for noise.
Yeah.
Not very kind for table pipes noise.
Well, here in America, we have there's a resurgence of farmers markets where people come to sell their produce, and they also have, the children are playing and they're selling soap. They make things, little fairs, little farmers markets, and events gather around them. We need more village feeling.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
Terry really got to the nub of this, which is with regard to children. We've got to capture people young, whatever we're aiming to do with them, whether it's Pipe and Tabor or Morris or whatever. You may have spotted what I wrote on the chat, so sorry to repeat it, but I went along to a local primary school. In fact, I was invited to play for a Northwest Morris team of 8 to 10-year-olds. I was there. I thought, well, I wonder if they'd be interested in some fiddle lessons. And I offered to take a little fiddling for fun group. And it was only half a dozen people that were interested, young kids. But I had 5 glorious years just guiding them through what little I know about playing the fiddle, and getting them up to a standard where they felt that they could perform in front of the school. And those kids may never play the fiddle again, but on the other hand, they may come back to it sometime, but they've had an introduction. And any of us can do that. If you go to your local school and say, hey, how would you fancy a Pipe and Tabor club? They'll bite your hand off. It may not be professional standard, but then should Pipe and Tabor be professional or anyway? Maybe that's for the next session.
A bit of issue about instruments, because I know when the society does beginners workshops, the generation pipes are inexpensive and they work really well, but it's really hard if it's Pipe and Tabor and getting the Tabor drum. That always seems to me the difficult and expensive bit of kit. And I know the workshops have those flat discs, which are fine for starting off, but you can actually a cheap recorder, you very quickly get a much more professional sound than a cheap Tabor.
You're absolutely right about cost. My experience was that the school had no money, so I spent a few £100 buying cheap fiddles and making them work, and I basically ran the club entirely myself. But I mean, if you want to do it, if you want to get the kids involved in what you're doing, then it's worth the investment, and you can always sell them again later. Anybody want to buy a fiddle?
No thanks, I've got 3.
Oh, I got 43.
Well, with any instrument, it's about having a place to use it. So, you know, you can start learning this and that, but you have to have a place to use it. And I think that's part of the problem. There aren't many places in modern society where live music is supported, and especially COVID, you know, but it's that live, where do you play your very cool thing? I'm not talking about being professional. I'm saying it's fun to play with others, but where do you do it?
So I think you've got a very good point there. Is when back in the 90s, I was really worried about the pipe and tabor because it really seemed to be disappearing. I was maintaining a list of taborers, and that list was getting shorter as they died. And so I thought, I'm going to have to try and do something to try and encourage it. And so that's why I set up the festival. But one of the things right from the start was the festival would give opportunity for people to do workshops and learn and improve their skills, up the skills, but also it had to have the opportunity for performance, to provide a way of people seeing and hearing it and promoting it, that possibly to a wider audience. And I don't think that we've really done much of that. So yes, education's one thing, which is sort of increasing supply, but actually the demand end has got to go up to make people want to consider playing it and have the context in which to play it. And so I think that last comment by Clive about when's the CD coming out from Atsu was actually quite relevant. I'm in awe of Paul Hoxborough over in Denmark, who has carved out a niche for the pipe and tabor in Denmark. He's had an opera written for a taborer, and he plays other instruments, but he's very similar to Atsu in some ways with his percussion and recorder. But he has really pushed the pipe and tabor out there in early music performance across Northern Europe, and making people aware of it. And that's the thing. When I was at school, we had the City Waits came and did a show, or rather a cut down version of City Waits, and Lucy Skeeping's brother, what's his name? I can't remember. He got up and he played a tune on 2 pipes at once, and that was when I was at primary school. Probably, not primary, secondary school, but I was probably about 11. That was probably the first time I saw it, saw pipe and tabor, and I thought, oh, I could do that. But then the opportunity appeared about 4 years later when I was in a dance group, and there were 2 taborers for that dance group. So it was something that I recognised and knew about, and I identified with. But I was a very unusual person because City Waits didn't visit that many schools, and so it was. So the promotion of the instrument, just in raising its awareness, is something which I think we can.
Well, if I'd like to say something.
Yeah, please, Lynn.
I've come because I thought we were going to talk about this exam proposition.
In 2 minutes.
Exam concept. Possibly that would have a bearing on awareness in the general public if there was a syllabus. It might be the wrong thing for other reasons, but it might have that one benefit that if things are there in the syllabus, people think, oh, so you can progress on that then. It's just a small part of.
Be interesting that.
Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah.
Somebody talking to me?
So, yes, you should have been in the earlier part of the discussion, Lynn. The talk from Terry. The talk from Terry. That was a lot. There was lots about recorder with Terry and Atsu.
I wasn't talking about recorder.
No, but you mentioned it there. Anyway, so we're going to start shortly. Are you there, Andy? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
And you've got your stuff ready to run, Terry?
Yes. Yeah.
And where's Bill gone? I can't see him. Oh, there he is. So what I plan to do in this is give a little introduction as to why this has come up, a syllabus for pipe and tabor, and then over to Terry to explain his first thoughts. Terry has been involved in music education for a long time at a very high level, and then the other person who's put forward some proposals is Bill Tuck, and then perhaps we can open the floor for discussion, and I would appreciate it if people would use the chat. You can't use the question and answer at the moment because you're all in the room now. That only works for people who are attendees. So if we can use the chat to, if you make notes of any questions or points you want to make during the first part when we have the presentations from myself, Terry, and Bill, and so that we get a good basis and structure for the discussion. So I'm going to start with a share screen. Here we go. And so in the last few months we've come up with this idea of a syllabus for pipe and tabor and an exam, and this came about I think largely because I teach pipe and tabor. I also teach concertina and tin whistle, and recently two London College of Music and Victoria College, I can't remember it's called, have set up exams for instruments which previously haven't had them, and they are the tin whistle and the Anglo concertina. But the London College has also set up a good number more for Irish music and
Scottish music.
Pardon? And Scottish music, yes, and Scottish music and things.
And they don't have an English music syllabus. Which
no, they don't. Can you make notes of those there, Lynn, so that we can have a discussion at the end of that. So my thought I know a lot of students actually find a syllabus and exams a useful way to go forward and to learn. It's appropriate for some, it's not appropriate for others. But what interests me about those syllabuses were that they weren't very much like the old graded exams that I remember. And also I've been involved in rock music as well, and there are syllabuses for that. I'll see if I can make there we go. So when I'm looking at an instrument, I've had to take it back to a real basic level, because quite a few of the people that I'm teaching have come to me because they don't want to read music. They have difficulty with, I've had ADHD and dyslexic and other students, and so I've had to develop an approach which has made me strip back and look at what learning to play an instrument is all about. there is a statistic that goes around that says 80% of the world's musicians can't read music. So I've been looking at what we're doing when we're learning an instrument, and God knows, I'm in a room with over 300 musical instruments. Very few of them, if any, have graded exams. So first of all, I divide it up. When I'm teaching somebody, I'm thinking about the technical side of how the instrument actually works. So that's about holding the instrument, the position, the buttons, how you can use the concertina, how I use the bellows, whistle, how I use the breath, which fingers you use, which way round, how you hold it. There's a technical side to an instrument, how you clean it, how you store it. So there's that. Then there's a technical side to how music fits on an instrument. And in the traditional exam route, there's scales, and you're relating. You've got a whole chunk of music theory, which is often done using manuscript and dots and things like that. But I have to think about how that relates to this instrument and also to somebody who's not reading music. So there is where the scales fit on the instrument, and how you get rhythms and things like that. Then obviously there's the tunes, which is the most interesting bit, and the bit that they all want to learn is they want to play tunes, and that's a primary interest to them. I can remember that was a big failure on the part of my piano teacher, who only gave me Dilla Quayle piano book, which had tunes which I'd never heard of, and when I played them, even if I played them perfectly, my parents and my siblings had never heard of them, and they were uninteresting compared to when I played the guitar and I played Beatles, where everybody could understand it. So there is the whole business of tunes, and that is a big bit. And then finally there's muscle memory, is helping them to understand that repeating particular movements builds the muscle memory. And muscle memory is an interesting thing, because I have a neighbour two neighbours who are, or they've moved away now, but one was a rank and file violinist in the big Philharmonia orchestra, and the other was the leader of, and I think he still is the leader of the orchestra. Her muscle memory was a direct line between the dots on the page through her eyes to her fingers, and that was the only way in which she could play music. And then the leader, he could do that obviously perfectly. James Clark, his name is, but also he could come out with me on a barn dance for Burns night, and I would start the tune on the concertina. First time through he would chug it, second time he would have the tune, third time he could lead it. He was listening, and that connection between his ear and what came out of the instrument was absolutely crucial, and is crucial for a taborer in many ways. So when we're looking at a syllabus, and I'm thinking more about the syllabus than the exam. The exam is a way of managing it, but we have a context with the pipe and tabor that, one, it is a diatonic instrument, which is different from a chromatic instrument like a piano or a violin. So we're looking at something which is different, and also the context for many taborers is to play for dance, like Bill plays for early dance, I play for Morris. And so there is that makes a difference to how one might want to structure a syllabus. Thinking in the terms of diatonic instruments are interesting subset of the whole musical instrument world, because they're suited to those who cannot read music. You often find people who can pick up a harmonica and knock out some tunes on it but they can't read music. But they find that the diatonic harmonica, which has only got the notes of the scale of the instrument, refines it down to the notes that they need, not necessarily all of the notes. The repertoire of those instruments reflects those limitations, that it's diatonic. Yes, you can half whole notes, but really, would you want to play something in C sharp on a D instrument? You'd probably get yourself a C sharp instrument. It also determines the scope of the repertoire. And those two things are like two sides of the same story. Also, if you're primarily learning the instrument to play for dance, as many people would do, that has a number of implications. So your particular knowledge of the dancer's requirements in having that instrument is part of learning that instrument. And the rhythm, whereas in if you're learning down the classical route and the classical exams, the rhythm is specific, it could be in 7/8 or it could be in 3/4, and you're looking for the accents and where you count, 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2, that kind of thing is really quite a different approach to say in Morris you're playing for a tune that has got a jig rhythm that might actually change its shape, so it might not be a strict tempo because of the way it's stepped. Look at the differences between playing for Sherborne to playing for Bledington, for instance. They might both be noted in 6/8, but actually played somewhat differently because the notation is only an aid memoir. It's not a strict tempo. And that playing for dance means that in many cases playing from sheet music is entirely inappropriate. One is carrying a music stand out around the villages of the Cotswolds and setting that up is not an option. And the other point is that actually you need to be looking at the dancers and playing according to their needs. So that means that we've got a different situation for playing in terms of what we will require of a syllabus. I'm just going to find you something else which is relevant here. I mentioned these other exams, and I've just got one here, the London College of Music here, and I'm just going to share this so that you can see this one here. This one is a section from the syllabus for the Anglo concertina, and it is closely related to a particular book in that way, but when it comes to the actual exams, you've got fairly simple things focusing on a particular book. It's not a particular method that I don't find that one particularly useful. I'm just going to switch to another exam. The Irish traditional exams for London College are a bit more interesting and have the actual exam content is established in a particular syllabus, but it is more focused on playing the music that people want to play when they're learning Irish music, and more focused on actual performances of tunes. So it takes quite a different approach to the traditional classical music exams. So that gives a bit of a context for how we might approach an exam. Or for me, the exam is a way of feeding through the syllabus and having a structured syllabus that people can get their brain around, but also enjoy. And I quite like this London one, because the tunes that they've got and their list of tunes that you can choose from in the thing are great Irish tunes. And you'd want to play them, and you'd want to be out in a session playing them. It is a very positive thing when I compare it to when I was studying organ and piano. Especially the piano, the stuff was dire. Nobody wanted to hear that music. So this is a different approach. And now Terry and Bill both suggested ways of going about this, and Terry obviously coming from his classical music background and teaching background, has a good knowledge of structures of exams and syllabuses. So perhaps Terry, I could hand over to you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm going to share this screen. Hold on a minute. Share screen. Yeah. Right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just some thoughts. I've been through all the pieces in my books, and analysed them as to the range, the half holding that's in them, the time signatures and the rhythms, and what period they were from. This is just some thoughts. So grade 1, 4 or 5 notes is a range, no half holding, simple time signatures like 2, 4, or 4, 4, and easy compounds, etc. And so on. Grade 2 is bigger range, you learn C naturals. Grade 3, bigger range, you learn D sharps, A sharps, and so on. And we start introducing semiquavers and that thing now. Now, this scales and arpeggios, right? Yeah. This is gives you the range of grade 1, and you could play a D major scale a bit, right? Or an arpeggio of D major, da 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 da. Okay. That's if you want to do them. Scales arpeggios are useful as a basis for demonstrating different tabering rhythms. For example, playing the scales using minims, where each note whilst tabering 2 crotchets, or 1 crotchet and 2 quavers, etc. They're good exercises for that. But whether we include them or not. Plus sight music, playing by ear, playing from memory, they're all great, I say. Playing by ear, I think that's very important, okay? Not sight reading, that's important if you want to be able to read it. We must cater for those who play by ear by recording the pieces, scales and arpeggios on a CD or on the website. Perhaps for solo pieces, the candidate could choose from a list containing, say, an early music piece, a 16th century piece, a Morris dance, a folk piece, a playful dance, could be a popular piece, so that the player could play something they were interested in. Okay, so that was those thoughts there. Okay, I'll stop that share. Right, back. Okay.
Okay. So Bill, are you there? Trying to find Bill.
Right.
Hang on. I'll just spotlight you.
Oh, there I am. Excellent. Right. I just first to endorse a lot of what both Steve and Terry have said. I can certainly see a function for, say, examinations in the way that they provide, on the one hand, motivation for students, and on the other, some kind of credit for teachers who are in the profession of teaching music. They've acquired a bit of skill in playing pipe and tabor, but they want to add that to their little box of saleable skills within that professional context of being a teacher. So having a kind of recognition, formal recognition of that kind, is very valuable. And to do that, you do need a syllabus. However, I'm much taken with what Steve says about syllabus for pipe and tabor. It doesn't really fit within the standard grade exams framework. It's a different sort of instrument. It's designed for a different purpose. You're never going to make it big in the orchestra. Having said that, there are lots of parts for tamburinos in a lot of those French Baroque scores, but it needs some unique way of addressing this particular problem. There's one thing that was missing, I think, from Steve's list of 4 areas, and that is the historical context. In fact, the most unique thing about the pipe and tabor is its extraordinarily long historical time over which it was a viable and often a valuable instrument, from the Neolithic to the present. And somehow we need to drag in these historical aspects, I feel, in to make it real. Part of that way is through dance, and Morris dance is obviously one way, but also dance like Playford, the Playford period, that 18th century period is a very valuable way of employing a pipe and tabor. And of course, my own interest goes back much further into the 15th century and earlier. So we have an enormous range of repertoire in terms of the time scale. I would think there is no great difficulty in attaching degrees of skill level required to play particular items within this repertoire. The one thing that is tricky is to actually get validation for experience in playing for dance, and to do that you really need dancers to play for. I know if you're a Morris taborer, you can do that. If you're an early dance taborer, it's a little bit more difficult. Playford likewise. But if you have something really specialized, like playing for the bass dance, that's quite tricky. The question comes around of how do you examine such a skill set, and I quite like the idea of videos. It's Trinity have a set of examination. I can't remember what they call it now, but anyway, they have 3 grade levels. Entry level, I think it's the entry level, the intermediate, and the advanced. Foundation is the first one. These are examined by the student preparing a short recital. Fine for instruments where that makes a lot of sense. To some extent, it would make sense for a taborer, but it doesn't get at the problem of evaluating dance. However, if you are able to video your stuff, your performance, send that into the examining board, have it rated, approved, and then, very importantly, you get a nicely decorated certificate at the end. This is actually so for what it's worth, that's my feeling about it. I'm not actually keen on exams myself, although I've done a lot of playing within basically a classical music area of one sort or another. I've very seldom taken to doing exams. there was one other thing I was going to add. I can't remember what it was now. But I think that's probably it. Yes, it's these reading scales and arpeggio. Sight reading doesn't really make a lot of sense with pipe and tabor because you're not generally playing in consort. But reading is actually a valuable skill because it enables you to learn tunes very efficiently. If you have to depend upon learning them by ear, then you've got to be able to hear them first from somebody else playing it, which is fine if you've got a friend taborer who will play them and give you time to master them. But it's a very inefficient way of learning. Sight reading, I say, is not a particularly valuable skill, but it's much emphasised within the traditional framework. Scales, arpeggios, and such like. Again, I don't have a lot of time for those, but taboring skills are quite valuable, and I think they could be codified in a way that would make sense. I think that's all I have to say at the moment, but very open for questions, and I'd like to hear other opinions. Thank you.
Okay, I just thinking. First person I would go to now, opening it up, would be to Lynn, who, or perhaps you can you can say something about what your experience is, because you do a lot of teaching recorder, don't you?
Yeah. Yes, I teach recorder to grade 8, and I use both the Associated Board and the Trinity exams, and I have used the London Board as well occasionally. So I was interested in when you posed this discussion, and I had a good look at the Victoria. I didn't know the Victoria Board was still going, but they're not accredited. They're not accredited, so their grades are not necessarily everybody else's grades. They like to think they are, but they haven't got accreditation. So looking at that, based on comparing their recorder syllabus to the ones I know really well, and also looking at the ocarina one as it's the example you gave, it didn't look awfully promising. Partly what you were saying about you don't think pipe and tabor is part of that world, that sort of classically examined world. But also, I don't know whether Victoria's got a bit of a chip on their shoulder, but they put masses of scales in their syllabuses. And they have 4 grades pre-grade 1, 4, which you'd think would start at, merrily we roll along. But the first one of those, which is 3 steps below grade 1, has already got 2 whole octave scales in. So looking at Terry's proposed list, I was thinking you'd never get this past the Victoria Board, for example. But then perhaps that's not where we want to go anyway. Thinking about Stephen's passionate descriptions of Morris players and players who want to be folky and players who want nothing to do with tadpoles on paper and so on. I agree, there's a lot of it about, and it's, it needs to be encouraged, it's not looked down on, but it isn't the only way. And I personally will never play for Morris, and unless the Hertfordshire early dance group lose all their musicians, I don't expect I'll ever play pipe and tabor for them either, because they'd rather have me on recorder. But I just like to do it. I like to have tunes that I might slip into, put concerts on with recorder consort, and I might like to just enter with pipe and tabor just to surprise them at the beginning. And there are, my point really is, there are different ways of wanting to play it, and I don't want us to get too narrowly focused on, well, yes, but can you play correctly for the bass dance? How many are your Morris tunes Bleddington or something else? These are issues which fascinate some people, but by no means all of us. And if we want to broaden society's knowledge of the instrument and interest in it, I don't think we need to go down the narrowing pathways. We need broadening pathways. And I think the good exam boards really have taken this on board, in that they put a really wide range of folk tunes, jazz-based tunes, music theatre, you name it, ancient classical. Everything's in there, and I think we ought to try and provide a syllabus that has room for people who want to go in their own direction with it. So maybe we shouldn't rely on they've got to learn to sight read, or should we rely on they've got to be able to pick up a tune by ear, other than in an oral test sort of context? I think having a syllabus is the thing, rather than the exams. Exams are, some people might like them, some people might not, but having a syllabus is really valuable, whether we pin it into an exam series or otherwise, or just issue little badges or something, well done, you played to pink level. Or... Those are my thoughts anyway. I just felt we were getting a bit specialised. I will shut up now.
Right. So, whoops. I was just. Is there anybody else who has a particular knowledge of exams, maybe in interesting other instruments, who've been through exam processes on different instruments? We got Andy. Anybody else? I'm just going to flick through just to see who puts that. So Andy, can you unmute?
Yes. So I suppose my experience with doing recorder exams recently is kind of mixed. So there were some real positives in that it gave my recorder teacher a structure to make me work towards stuff, and that was very positive. And also it sort of forced me to put some work in at some crucial points where I possibly wouldn't have done. That was the positive aspect. The sort of negative aspect was I found myself working on some stuff that I just really felt, I just actually didn't want to work on it. So it was pluses and minuses. I definitely got, on balance, good things out of it. The other thing, taking a step back, because I've been doing quite a lot of teaching online recently, I've had to really work out some very structured approaches for all the different people I've been teaching. But really, I'd kind of like to echo a sort of a mixture of what all the previous people have been saying, I suppose. And particularly kind of finding a way of using Bill's approach, I think, because what I find is that in the early stages, yes, you are sort of trying to find some simple repertoire for people to practice that will get those really basic things like the first scale and some very simple tabering, and then you're gradually trying to introduce more complicated dance-related playing, and also the sort of the more tricky things like trills, using trills to help the dancers, some use of some more obscure notes, all of those kind of things. So I suppose I think we do need a way of acknowledging the way that the pipe and tabor can give an impression. So I think that is either an impression on dancers, and I think some of that is really very, very technical and quite advanced. I don't know how far we go along the syllabus route for that. And I suppose if it's a bit more like Lynn's idea, where you just want to make an impression on an audience in a concert, then we need to try and include that as well. So it's actually really quite a big tapestry of stuff that we would need to be able to adequately reflect. Because I suppose what we don't want is to have a syllabus that people immediately think, well, that that doesn't really do anything for me. So yeah, it's a very interesting challenge actually.
Great. I'm just making. I'm noting these things which are coming up on the chat, and also what you're saying. Each person's saying, and I'll make a little bit of sort of a summary of all that. But have we got some more people who would like to stick up their hand and offer? Well, Terry, you've had a talk. I've just seen if there's anybody else that's in the who's general part. We've got Jez. Jez, could you unmute? No, we can't hear you. You're still muted. Atsu, oh, that's right. I thought we were going to get Atsu to do some ventriloquism on you.
Okay, so just sort of a few quick points. I mean, firstly, over lockdown, I've been playing for the Arbo Dancers up in Yorkshire, and what a fantastic repertoire from medieval through to Victorian. So I've never learnt so many tunes in such a short period of time. And thank you to everybody in the society who's been feeding me some of that music as well. The second point I wanted to say, I'd find a syllabus really motivating. I've got very little time in a busy life to practice and play. And I know there's weaknesses in my playing. And I think a syllabus would help me work to correct some of those. And then I think thirdly, the main point on that, it's absolutely fantastic having a syllabus, and I'd support exams. But what you really need is constructive feedback from experienced players, and the question is, who do you get that from? So the people are wonderfully supportive, and when you go to the festivals, it's absolutely brilliant, and you pick up loads of things. But in between those, where do you get help from really good experienced players? Because most of them are probably in this chat room at the moment. And you're all volunteers and you're all busy, and that's not what you do on a daily basis. So how do we get that feedback, that constructive criticism from people? We're all very polite to each other in the festivals, and we all say, oh, wonderful, fantastic, you did wonderfully. But where do you get that people picking up the weaknesses in your playing and actually helping you to improve?
Jolly good. That's excellent. Good thought. Any other hands going up there? Chris.
Yeah, I do like the idea of a syllabus. I'm not so sure about exams. We're nearly all self-taught, it seems to me. And one of the things I'm a little bit concerned about is somebody saying this is the right way to do it. Because I think we've all encountered problems with the pipe and with the tabor, and especially with combining the two. And we have found ways that work for us. And I suppose I'm coming back to what Jez was just saying, that it's quite helpful in that where you do encounter problems to have some feedback from other people. But I'd be sorry to see an over-prescriptive approach where you're told you have to hold the stick in this particular way. For example, an example which some of us have encountered, because as I say, we find our own ways of doing things and we can all help each other, but not necessarily say you have to do it like this.
Jolly good. Thank you there.
A thumbs up to a syllabus. I think that's really helpful.
Good. Now, can we, are there any more? I have to keep switching. So we've got, Terry wants to come back. We'll do that now. And there you go, Terry.
Right. I sold one of my books to a chap called Stephen Langford. Right. He had the first book, the early music book. And what I also did for him, I put them in order of difficulty. I sent him a database, the order of difficulty. So that was like a syllabus for him of that book. So he didn't know which was to start, how to start and progress. What it really needs, as I think he plays by ear, is a CD with the pieces on. So that people who play by ear can do that. I think we should value the two disciplines. This comes as a teacher. The two disciplines of learning to read music and playing by ear are both to be valued. Okay, and I'm not very good at playing by ear, but I would like to get better at it. As regards there's comments about teachers and things. You can have a mentor system where perhaps there's chose Stephen to help him with his tabling, for example, or etc. That's just an idea. That's what I've got to say.
Lovely. That's a very good point there. Let me just go back to the gallery view. We've got hands going up here. Let me just check who we've got. I don't think we've had Clive yet. So Clive, can I bring Clive in there?
Thanks, Steve. I just want to follow up on what Terry was saying. Mentoring systems can be excellent. I've experienced them for Morris dancing, for instance. But it needs to be a two-way approach. If mentors wait for people to come and ask them, they'll be waiting till the cows go home. So perhaps it needs people who know and who have a sympathetic attitude to approach people who they can see are not quite getting the thing together and offer to assist them and guide them. And do it in the nicest possible way. It's not about saying you're not good enough. It's about saying, hey, I could do something you can't do. Would you like to do it too?
Lovely. Yeah, no, that's a very good thing there. Let's just have a look at the list here, because we had Andy.
I think there we go. I think it's a really great idea to do the mentoring, and I think the thing about mentoring is it doesn't have to be in one direction. I think you can actually have situations where you each learn from each other as well. So I think it's just really valuable to put, anybody that wants to put themselves out there and say, I'm happy for some sort of mentoring partnership to do it. I mean, I'm certainly up for anything like that, and maybe we should just have a list of people who are willing to do that. And I think I suspect that everyone is going to learn from it, not just the people who might think that they're kind of imparting knowledge,
Jolly good. Right, we got Gillian, and then I've got Elizabeth, and then Bill. Where you're still muted. We'll do lip reading. Bottom left, the mute button. That sounds like it.
There. Curses. I couldn't find the cursor. Right. Hope Andy doesn't mind me saying this, but over lockdown, he and I have a regular weekly get together on Skype. And it's actually very stimulating. I was a bit iffy at first, but now I think, oh, it's Andy in a couple of days' time. Now, what am I going to play? And I go through, practice that one. I haven't played that one for a while. Learn this one because I haven't learned it yet. And actually, over lockdown, I've learnt a lot of new tunes because I get in touch with Andy, and it's really stimulating. And also, he can say things to me and I can say things to him about what he's playing. and it's constructive, isn't it, Andy? Yeah. So I'm not sure we need a list. Just get in touch with someone you think they might be able to help me, and play and say, what do you think of this?
Excellent. Thank you there. I'm just going to bring Elizabeth in.
I had a question as well as a comment. I think we need to value all approaches, because what makes this group wonderful is there are so many styles that are not written down. And we can't be like, the only valid thing is reading music. We don't want to be elitist. The approaches in our group are wonderful. And music isn't on the page. The page is just a guide for what to play. But I had a question about the chat. Does the chat get saved somewhere? Because there are so many wonderful threads and points. Does it get saved, or does it disappear?
I'm not sure that we actually. I've suddenly noticed that we weren't recording, and so it's only about 10 minutes ago I switched the recording on. Sorry about that. Oh, it will. No, the chat won't get saved, but the video is on the YouTube.
Well, yeah. My question was about the chat, because people are answering and asking.
Yeah. No, so
valid.
I have been making. I've been picking up things from there, and I'll put in. I'll put that list up at the end.
Great, thank you.
Jolly good. Now we had Bill wanted to get in. There we go.
Okay, thanks. Just a small point. I grew up playing trumpets and trombones and things in a brass band. The brass band world makes a lot of competitions, and although I don't think I ever took any exams, it was one way of actually, as a child, generating enthusiasm. And I'm wondering, is there any mileage in this? Particularly, I have no intention of doing competitions now, but it may be one way of getting kids interested by setting up, say, a competition within the Taborers within our festival, where we can allow people to put and give them prizes. Prizes very important. Colourful certificates, but even cups and silver trophies. It may work. It's an interesting one. Thank you. That's all.
That is a very interesting thought. In a parallel, in my parallel life, I'm also qualified as a professional sailor, and I have a number of qualifications to my name, which I'm quite proud of. But I'm also very proud of the cups that I've won for sailing across the Atlantic quicker than other people, or sailing across the Channel faster, or getting round a bunch of coloured buoys in the Solent quicker than anybody else. I really quite like those. So, have we got any, before I do a summary, any more burning comments, ideas? I've got a Jez one there. Yeah, that's Jez. So let's have Jez.
Yeah, just a very quick point. So if I want to go and learn the violin, I can hire a music teacher, and I would expect to pay for that service. And likewise, for the people here, there's a lot of professional musicians who do this for their living. I think I would be more than happy to pay for someone's time to help me improve, and to have, working towards a syllabus and also having, paid assistance to do that is something I would very much value if people wanted to put themselves out as that person.
Yes, I think it may be that one of the things we need to do is to actually have a list of tutors on the website, which we don't have at the moment. But we there was a time when there weren't any, and I was loath to put myself up there, because I thought, well, I'm teaching it. But we got something there from Elizabeth. Yeah.
I've said this before, but I think it's really important. Jillian's system, that little system of writing these little notations under certain lines, has helped me, and I am a professional musician, but her system helped me when I switched from a G pipe to a D pipe and I need the thumb or 2 fingers or 3 fingers are open. Her notation system should be included somehow.
Oh, exactly. I'm thinking I've got a good example. There is, I was learning piano and organ, and I started. There was a primary school teacher who taught guitar, and he was Spanish, and he was a wonderful musician and a friend of one of the world's top guitarists at the time, and he taught me classical guitar using a notation like that, and we just had fun. You know, I was like 11, 12, that sort of age, and I just thoroughly enjoyed learning guitar with him. It was so much fun. I really looked forward to it. And one day I was buying some Beatles songbooks in the music shop, and I saw a section labeled classical guitar. I thought, oh, all this stuff for classical guitar in a book in a music shop. So I went through it and I found the exams, and I found the exam pieces, and I went through the exam, and I opened up grade 8 because that sounds posh. Opened that up, I could play all of them. And even though I could read music, I had never read music for classical guitar, and I would never play classical guitar using the music. I would still today I wouldn't do it like that. I would use notation, and it is a different way of doing it. It's been used since stringed instruments were invented. As a route through notation, be it tadpoles on staves or little dots, is a valuable way to learn, and but it doesn't deny the benefits of either. And as Bill said, reading music and playing by ear are valued skills, or no, Terry said equally valued skills, and I would add to that notation as also another way to do that, because it gives people an access into it. What I'd like to do, thank you there, Elizabeth, is we're just coming up to the hour now. Maybe I can share my my notes. I've been trying to type as we've been talking, and I just thought I would bring up so you could see the notes that I've taken away from that, and you can probably see here tablature was the first thing I wrote down for notation, and Bill's comment about historical text, that playing for dance, as Bill said, had its own particular requirements, that reading was a valuable skill even for people who play by ear, and we should consider reading as opposed to sight reading as a particular discipline. The discussion of taboring skills came up, or a couple of times. As Lynn pointed out, non-dance performance needs to be equally catered for, and the opportunity to broaden one's knowledge. So even if you're a Morris player, there are things you can learn by playing something from Arbo, and vice versa. That the structure of a syllabus and exams helps to work towards improvement. It also provides motivation towards improvement. Ornamentation is an aspect that could be included on the syllabus, and indeed the tin whistle syllabus is very good on ornamentation. There is also a Ujiie pipe syllabus which has that, and if I think about it, if you look at learning the Great Highland Bagpipe, it is really the whole thing is built around developing your knowledge and your skill in the forms of ornamentation. So there is a whole world there. There is a need for syllabuses to meet the needs of different people, and so as Bill pointed out, the choice of pieces that you play could be from a Playford or an early music or a Morris or something else, but it needs to appeal to different people. I just made a note there about Catalan. I'll move that to the bottom, actually. I'll come back to that. We were advised to avoid prescriptive methods, i.e. you must hold your tabor stick this way or whatever. I have a little comment about that, in that it is important to highlight that there are particular methods for playing different things. As to whether one particularly uses them, that's another matter. Reading music and playing by ear are both valued skills. We should consider mentoring systems, or we should consider video or sound files as resources. And I'd just like to point out at this point, we do have a number of basic videos which we use, Andy and I use, in relation to our beginners workshops, and those videos are on the Taborers Society YouTube channel, and they're all there. And we filmed a bunch of them. I think we filmed all of them in a car park at Sidmouth Folk Festival, and they have received a huge number of hits. So that's they're obviously being used. And finally, competitions as motivation, which is interesting. I just come back to Catalan experience. Catalonia being a part of Spain that speaks a different language from the Spanish, they are very keen to promote their own music traditions, which are very popular. And so after the transition from Franco period, it became possible to play the flaviol and bombo again, and to play their repertoire. And so music schools in Catalonia have pipe and tabor as a normal stream within their schools, and they have a very good syllabus, and they teach it to people from kindergarten upwards. But you go to the music school, it's not part of the normal school offerings. Perhaps we have something to learn from there by looking at their syllabus, because in some ways it reflects our situation, in that a lot of it is for dance, some of it is for historical, some of it is very contemporary, and the flaviol or the pipe and tabor is a common part of popular culture, and they play a lot of popular music on it. So that's an opportunity there. So there we have it. That's my notes. I might try and massage them into something a bit more comprehensive or comprehensible for distribution, together with Terry's and Bill's notes, and then perhaps we can reconvene at a point and even continue this discussion within the society. We have a Facebook page which is quite useful for this, and also we do have our Taborers sessions and things like that, so we've got opportunities to do that. Andy, can I just go across to you?
Yeah. Okay. So I think there's just loads of really great stuff has come out of this. So I think we need to thank everybody for amazing contributions. Really helpful, and I think it's always a big team effort with the Taborers. I just love that fact about Taborers, that we're all kind of trying to encourage each other, which is really brilliant. So I guess Steve is going to do his summary. We're going to. It sounds like we're going to put a list of anybody who wants to give lessons on the website, and I suppose we could. I'm not really quite sure what the best way of doing the mentoring thing is. Is it easiest to do that via Facebook or what?
Well, I wonder if we can put a list on the website of people who are prepared to mentor, and also put in that what their particular skills are that they're, so mine would be particularly playing for Morris, and I think someone like MJ would be a fantastic mentor for playing for Morris.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's going to be that.
And if you did. If you did the same, then people could get a direct line back to Russell Wortley and the old dead guys.
That's right. Yes, absolutely. So there's loads of stuff we can do there. And, I think we're all going to learn. We're all going to learn from each other anyway. So that's really fantastic. Okay, right. Well, big round of applause, I think, for everyone. Thank you very much. Woo! So the next thing is Bill's fantastic bass dance, playing for bass dance workshop. It's just going to be amazing. It's at 2:00. Is that right? So we all need to be limbering up and getting our costumes on if necessary for that.
Getting your Scotsies organised, yes. Yeah, right. I'm hoping it'll be fairly sort of interactive rather than just me talking. So I've got quite a lot of little things we can engage in. So I may be calling for volunteers for this and that through the course of it. Which brings me, Steve, how are we going to organise it? Is it going to be on a open Zoom like this, or?
Yeah, it will be, I think, probably best as an open Zoom.
Yeah.
And because we're in a particular sort of environment where people are going to be able to interact, so that's what we need. We're not too worried about the having a very high quality of feed, unless you particularly want to give a demonstration or something like that. We can boot everybody into the attendees and make sure everybody gets a nice clean feed. But anyway.
Okay, so it's intended to be fairly informal, but I have got some interesting things that I hope will be interesting to say about bass dance and related things. So great.
And I would encourage even the Morris dancers to come and take part in this, because you never know what you might learn.
Oh, it's going to be completely awesome.
I'll make a point of referencing Morris at least once, if not twice, through the proceedings.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I will, if that's okay, Andy, I can switch it off, and we reconvene at 3:00.
Yeah. Thanks.
2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock.
See you at 2. Bye.
Right. So, Steve, I was wondering. I've got the little video clip that I sent through. Is it easier for you to run it on your machine or for me?
I can do that. That was the Rusty Bolly or something.
Rusty Bolly, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I was thinking if we once we've opened the session, if you can then do that, at least people will have a rough idea of what we're talking about. So that would be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see some bass dance. Yeah.
Right.
And other sea fish are available.
Okay. I'll I'll check in just before 2.
I think we have to do the traditional bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.